Hello students, welcome back to your history class. We are doing question and answers of chapter 7, Changing Cultural Traditions. And we were doing the very short answer type questions. Last class we finished the achievements of the personalities of the Renaissance personalities. Today we are going to do the terms. So in this we have to explain the meaning of a few words. So the first one is Roman Catholics. As a result of the Reformation movement, the Christians were divided into two main sects, the Roman Catholics and the Protestants. Those who still held faith in the old church and the Pope, they came to be known as the Roman Catholics, while those who protested against the authority of the Pope came to be known as the Protestants. Next would be explain the meaning of the term humanism. Humanism, it is the philosophy of life which stresses the importance of man and his sentiments rather than any religious or philosophical matters. During the Renaissance period, the influence of humanism was much more evident in art, science, and literature. Then the term heretic. All those reformers who opposed the Catholic Church or criticized the objectionable church practices were called the heretics. They were heavily punished by the Pope, and also sometimes, as in the case of Hus, they were also ordered to be burnt alive. Next term is mercantilism. Mercantilism was an economic theory that measured the wealth of a country according to the amount of precious metals, particularly gold, that the country had. The exponents of mercantilist theory insisted that a country should export maximum quantity of goods and should restrict its imports in order to increase their gold reserves. That is mercantilism. Nation states. The nation states were established during the Renaissance period and they maintained their sovereignty by keeping themselves free from all kinds of foreign interferences, political or religious. The nation states comprised a group of people speaking a common language and inhabiting a particular territory so that they began to think of themselves as one people who were governed by a uniform code of law. Next is Protestant Reformation. In the 15th and 16th centuries, there started a movement to reform the Christian religion and to do away with many evils attached to it, like corrupt practices, false superstitions, and immoral life of the clergymen. This movement came to be known as the Reformation movement. This movement led to the establishment of the national churches in different countries. These national churches were fully independent of the papal authority. Next is Counter-Reformation. The Counter-Reformation was the reaction of the Roman Catholic towards the Protestant Reformation. The rapid expansion of the Protestant religion in several countries of Europe shook the Roman Catholic leaders. The staunch Catholics attempted to bring reforms in their church and regain some of their lost prestige. As a result, the Counter-Reformation, some of the objectionable practices were given up. The Pope and the clergymen were made to abandon their luxurious living. The Pope himself abandoned his objectionable methods of extracting money and gave up the practice of selling the offices of the clergymen, who now began to appoint from among the educated, efficient, and religious minded people. The sale of indulgences was also given up. But all these efforts of the Roman Catholic Church could do little in checking the spread of Protestant, Protestantism. These are the two questions that you're going to solve absolutely on your own. Would you say the scientific method was entirely discovered by the Renaissance scientists, or perhaps rediscovered and advanced? I repeat, would you say that the scientific method was entirely discovered by the Renaissance scientists, or perhaps it was rediscovered and advanced? And you will give evidence, or you will justify your reasoning also. Next question: do you consider the development of nation states a step forward in man's progress? Why or why not? I repeat, do you consider the development of nation states a step forward in man's progress? Why or why not? So, these two questions I'm not going to give you direct answers to. You're going to be able to search them on your own. So, we've finished all the very short answers. Now we are coming to short answers, which are 100-word answers. Identify 4 celebrated writers whose thoughts and works contributed to the origin of Renaissance. So I will only give you the names over here because we've already discussed this in the previous class. The answers are Dante, Petrarch, Thomas More, and Erasmus. So these 4, they were great writers, and their works have contributed to the origin of Renaissance. So you will talk about their works. You will talk about how you think those works have contributed. Please mention the names. Next is name 4 great artists whose paintings depict the elements of Renaissance spirit. Also describe these paintings briefly. It can also be what were the most important achievements of Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, Giotto, and Raphael. So these are the 4 painters that you will talk about. You will talk about their paintings and you will describe their paintings. I'm not going to repeat this because this has been done in the last class already. Also, you can use the computer, you can use the internet to get more information, and all the answers are actually there in your textbook. You don't even need the internet. Next, name 4 of the great Renaissance scientists and briefly discuss their inventions. The answers, the 4 scientists would be Copernicus, Galileo, Newton, and Vesalius. Again, these have been discussed. You will talk about what they found, what was their discovery, what was their invention. Okay, you can also talk about Gutenberg here and his printing press. What were the features the humanist thought? This I will tell you. Main features of the human thought. Humanism is the idea that lays stress on man's life, comforts, and his culture. Man does not live only for God and religion, but also for his own self. Humanism emphasized the importance of man as a man and nothing else. Man should be honored and all efforts should be directed to promote his welfare. All problems that face us as human beings should be solved without reference to such dubious subjects as mythology. The Renaissance paintings of such artists as Raphael and Michelangelo depict Jesus as a human child and Mary as a loving human mother. These creations are devoid of medieval religious sentiments. Madonna, Madonna and Mona Lisa are some other masterpieces of this period which clearly show the effect of humanism. Famous Renaissance poets like Dante and Shakespeare, they analyzed the human sentiments and described the inevitable weakness of human character. Their characters were drawn from human life rather than from mythology. The Divine Comedy, Utopia, Hamlet, these are among the famous works of literature which are fully saturated with the idea of humanism. So you have to generally give 4 points in these answers. I've given you six, but you can learn any four of them. What factors led to the beginning of the modern age? There were many factors which played an important part in leading the medieval age to modern age. The main amongst them are Renaissance, maritime explorations and discoveries, the Reformation, rise of the middle class, and rise of nation states. Renaissance. Because of taking a new interest in art and literature of the ancient Greeks and Romans, the Europeans began to change their outlook on life. Now they began to test everything on the touchstone of reasoning and questioning. In such a state of affair, the darkness and ignorance of the medieval age began to give place to light and brilliance of the modern age. Next, maritime explorations and discoveries. Because of the invention of the mariner's compass, great sailors like Vasco da Gama and Columbus discovered many new lands. Consequently, people of one country began to mix freely with the people of the rest of the world, and there was free exchange of ideas. In such circumstances, how could the ignorance of medieval age prevail for a longer time? Third, the Reformation. Reformers like Martin Luther vehemently attacked one of the main pillars of the Middle Age, the Church and the corrupt clergy. And in doing so, he promoted free thinking among the people. Now they gave up blind faiths and useless dogmas and began to think for themselves. Fourth point is the rise of the middle class. During the medieval period, the nobility and the clergy were all in all. But with the growth of trade and commerce, rise of new cities, and discovery of new countries, a new class of the society, that is, the middle class, emerged, which was in no way prepared to bow before the pleasure seeking nobility and corrupt clergy. It was because of their help that the common people who dared to challenge the special rights and privileges of the upper class were given some strength and courage. Next is rise of nation states. The Reformation had already prompted the people to rise against the authority of a foreign pope. In such circumstances, when some rulers tried to get rid of the feudal lords and the pope, the people at once took the side of their national rulers. Consequently, strong rulers overpowered the stubborn feudal lords and ignored the authority of the Pope in political matters. They established their own kingdoms which they ruled as they pleased. So these were the five factors that led to the beginning of the modern age. Here I am ending today's class. Next class, we'll start with the next question. What is the significance of growth in trade and the rise of towns in the period of Renaissance? This is the end to this class. Children, stay home, stay safe, take care, keep learning. Thank you.